crashing into each other, lots of batter skull action, maybe even some exciting counterbalance top action.
Not a huge black splash for Alex Gonzalez on the left. The only black in the main deck appears to be just for engineered explosives. Out of the sideboard, he has surgical extraction, and that is all I see.
Wow, it's a really small black splash.
Really small black splash.
So it looks like Alex Binek won the roll and led off on island, countered by Misty Reinforced from Gonzalez. Both players going to play it slow here. They know that they're really in no rush, and it's more about the long game than who can land an early threat.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this is very similar to Alex Binek's deck that I deck-teched when I was here last time, with 2 Stoneforge Mystic, 2 Snapcaster Mage, 2 Vendilion Click, just sort of all over the place. It looks all over the place, but you know, it's able to take all sorts of different forms depending on which hand you draw. So you can either be a Jace deck, or you can be a Miracles deck, or you can be the Stoneforge.
Right, and of course the Force of Wills and the Brainstorms tie it all together. You can pitch them, you can put them back, assemble the perfect hand, find the perfect plan for whatever matchup you're playing against. So both players, looks like, just developing their mana bases here. Binek won't expose a Duel of the Wasteland unless he has to. And Gonzalez probably has, that's probably all of his lands, since his turn 2 is Wasteland, turn 3 Tundra.
Yeah. Some other storylines we were keeping an eye on earlier. Christopher Anderson playing the blue-green Enchantress deck. Not the only blue-green Enchantress player who's going to be making money this weekend, as Jacob Baugh, another one of our top 8 competitors from this morning, top 4 competitors from this morning, also on the blue-green Enchantress deck. So we had several of those in the room. We had 4 or 5 in the room doing well. It's a good tournament for that deck.
Yeah, it's definitely a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, I watched Chris Anderson play last round when I was on my break, and he had to get very unlucky to lose. You know, he ran into a string of bad luck, and as a result, probably not going to make the top 8 here, but still can lock up that top 16 finish with a win. Another
thing to note is Matt Hoey is playing this, or he drew the last round actually, so he's going to draw into top 32. He was the Legacy champion from last time, still putting up a solid result, making some money.
Yeah, definitely a good finish for Matt.
Same with Nick Marriott, who is the only Maverick player that we really saw this weekend. Maverick's taken a big hit because of the Miracles. Just Terminus is just so good against the Maverick deck that it can't ever really realistically beat it.
Right, when your plan is Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor into Knight of Reliquary, Terminus is pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. Brandon Large came into this round in 21st place. He was our Jund player. You can watch a deck tech that I did with him earlier today. Basically porting modern Jund into Legacy.
Okay.
So we have some actions finally happening on the board here. We have a Stoneforge Mystic from Alex Gonzalez, and Mr. Binek is going to cast Counterspell to be able to deal with it.
Yep, that top's been in play for a couple of turns, but no counterbalance yet for Binek. And it looks like Gonzalez doesn't want to fight over the Stoneforge.
I think that that's a completely reasonable play. It's not a complete blowout to just land a Batterskull against a blue-white Miracles player.
Right.
So I think that that's a reasonable thing to do. If he had landed it, great, but...
Exactly. There's no reason to lose, say, a Force of Will and a Brainstorm. That's definitely a bad trade.
Yeah. He would much rather get his Stoneforge Mystic countered than, let's say, an Elspeth or a Jace.
Right, exactly. The Planeswalkers are king in this matchup.
Yeah.
So Binek just really developing his mana base. The top plus the fetch lands are going to give him incredible card selection. And Gonzalez, though, he won't fall behind on the board. He's definitely going to fall behind in terms of quality of cards in hand. And that's going to catch up with him probably later rather than sooner, but it will.
Alex Binek has 7 basic lands in his deck, and he's got 4 of them in play, so he's really able to well able to avoid the Wasteland problem at all from Alex. And as the more controlly of the 2 decks, that's a place you want to be at.
Exactly. So Gonzalez with an end of turn Brainstorm, he's not going to shuffle the cards away. Probably means that he shouldn't have cast Brainstorm.
Probably.
That's usually what it means. So
AJ Soccer is not happy with what's just happened.
Someday, somewhere he's grinding his teeth.
Yep. So here's Jace the Mind Sculptor, which, as you may or may not know, is better than all.
Oh, he is.
Alex Binek is going to search his library for another basic, presumably. I imagine this will be a Plains.
Have to imagine he's going to contest this Jace. even if he has a Jace in his hand to Legend Rule, he would way rather counter the Jace and then play his own, which is devastating in this matchup.
Yeah, if Alex gets to land his and activate for Brainstorm, and then Alex Legend Rules, it's not good.
No.
Still not very good.
So we'll see what Binek has here. Wow, it looks like he's just going to spin the top. Maybe looking for answers.
There's another Brainstorm with 2 lands?
I think land Detention Sphere Brainstorm.
Oh, so Detention Sphere is not too bad.
No, it is an answer, although the Brainstorm from Gonzalez's Jace plus the fetch land in play is a pretty big game.
Yeah. So we found a blue spell for our Force of Will is what we needed.
Right.
I see.
It is painful to pitch the Brainstorm there, but you have to get the Jace off the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex does not appear to have a counterspell or a Force of Will in his hand.
And Binek, this is exactly what he wanted to do: counter the Jace, untap, land a Jace.
Yeah, and I think that's just what he's going to do here.
Yep, looks like
There it is.
And that should certainly be Brainstorming here. There's no reason to Fate Seal. Gonzalez has no Lightning Bolts, has no Haste creatures, so it's just pure value for Binek.
Yep. The only thing that Alex Gonzalez can realistically do is play an end-of-turn Vendilion Click that has pseudo haste, but obviously you can't cast it here, so.
Right. So Binek puts 2 on top. He'd love a fetch land, and there it is.
Yeah.
That'll allow him to get his 6th basic of the game.
Nice.
If he wants it.
Yeah, Alex Gonzalez is not in good shape here.
It was interesting. I saw Alex Gonzalez take an intentional draw with Justin Uppel after 2 games. They split the first 2, had about 15 minutes left, decided they liked their chances better with the draw, and this is the result. He's in the draw bracket. He's gonna face the Miracle stack.
Yep.
Whether or not that's a good matchup for him, I'm not sure.
So Jace is going to get Legend Ruled here, which is, I still think, is in Alex's favor. Alex has 2 Jaces in his bin. Alex still has only the 1, so he's got more in his deck.
Exactly. Binek with 3 Jace in his deck.
Yeah, same with Gonzalez.
Yep.
So
1 Elspeth, though, in favor of Gonzalez. So both players still with the 2 Planeswalkers left.
And Elspeth is wins the battle of those 2 Planeswalkers if those are the only 2 things on board.
It does. Even though you're going to get a stream of card advantage from the Jace, when you have to keep throwing those cards at 1/1 soldier tokens, it goes away pretty quickly.
Yeah. That equation only changes if a player manages to land a creature with greater than 1 toughness, which there are not a ton of between the 2 decks. There's Entreat the Angels and Stoneforge Mystics, and that's it.
Right. So Binek, end of turn, shuffles away the chaff from the Jace, lands a top, spins the top.
Among the top cards is a Terminus.
Next to useless in this matchup.
Yeah.
That'll just float on the top of the deck until needed.
Hey, there's a dual land. Feel free to wasteland me.
Yeah, when you're up 7 lands to 5, you would love your opponent to wasteland you here. Despite all of Binek's supposed advantage in the early game, it's Gonzalez who has the better hand.
Yep.
Snapcaster, Engineered, Swords. While these cards aren't great in the matchup, eventually they will be. And Binek just needs a way to press his advantage here.
I think Alex Binek added a Vendilion Click to his hand. Alex Gonzalez casts an end-of-turn Snapcaster Mage. This is going to Brainstorm with a fetch land available, so...
Yep, now, if Alex Binek waits until Gonzalez cracks this fetch land to use his Vendilion Click, he'll force Alex Gonzalez to put a bad card to the bottom and draw, or put a good card to the bottom, draw a bad card. That's not what he does. Gonzalez actually didn't really even give him a chance there. Just kind of picked up his deck.
Yeah. I think if Alex had wanted to make that play, he would have pressed his advantage.
Definitely.
So it's actually a Vendilion Click from Alex Gonzalez here, rather than from Mr. Binek. So he's deciding whether or not he wants to Legend Rule once more.
I think he has to here. I'm not sure what other options he has. Oh, he has the Terminus.
Oh, so we are going to reveal.
I like this if the
he
Terminus
does have
is
the Terminus.
second
That's
from
right.
top.
So yeah, this is the one that's on, it is currently on top of the library.
Perfect then.
And so Did he not? Maybe not.
Interesting. Maybe it's
the next one down.
Yeah. So yeah, it looks like upkeep. Gonzalez is going to use the top, or sorry, Binek is going to use the top.
Ah, he doesn't. He knew it was there.
Right.
I just had the order wrong in my mind.
So it looks like Gonzalez thinking about this. Not sure. No, not going to preserve his clock.
Not going to fight over it.
I think he has another Snapcaster in hand, so that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and he's also got a lot more cards.
Right. You only ever really want one creature on the board in this matchup, 2 at the very most. Oh, and you have Batterskull in hand for Gonzalez.
He also has the Riptide Laboratory, which there it is.
Yep, that's a pretty sick one.
That's a nice one. Unfortunately, he no longer has access to Vendilion Click or Snapcaster Mage to be able to return his wizards, but any future wizards
Good news
gonna be good.
Well, the good news for Gonzalez is that Binek has 0 wastelands in his deck, 0 ways to destroy lands. So.
Yep. Very precious resource, his lands. He would prefer to be the one playing all the basics rather than trying to fight the wasteland battle.
Right. It's nice to have one way in your 75 to deal with a land, even if it's only a Dust Bowl, but I don't see one in here. Probably had a pretty tight sideboard as is.
So here is Alex's next Vendilion Click. That's going to get counterspelled.
Classy 5th edition counterspell there from Gonzalez. I like it.
I'm not a big fan of the 5th edition counterspell. I much prefer Alex Binek's Mercadian Masks, Merfolk Lady counterspells.
Those are nice too. The only way that Gonzalez's could be better if they were 6th edition.
Right. Sure.
The big garish VI. That's about it.
So Alex Binek finds another Jace. Not only does it find another Jace, he lands another Jace. That is going to... I mean, if Alex Gonzalez was ahead before, he is certainly not anymore.
Definitely not.
This is big trouble in Little China for Alex Gonzalez.
The only way he can catch up now, he has to flash in a creature to start pressuring that Jace.
Yeah. And he does not have one, so... Not looking good for Team Gonzalez over there.
No, he was ahead for a minute, but the Jace, well, the Vendilion followed by Jace.
Yeah. Yeah, terminusing the clock off the board so prevented him from being able to realistically play the aggro game. He wasn't set up to play the control game, obviously, without the counterspell. So having all those cards in hand was just an illusion.
So this is a way to get back in the game.
Sure.
Here's a Batterskull from Gonzalez, and if Binek doesn't have an answer to that, he's going to have to use Jace to bounce, but I think he has a Detention Sphere still.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the Jace plus fetch land. You put the situational cards back on top, and if you don't need them, just shuffle them away. If you do, though, you get to draw them.
So, as I mentioned yesterday, I don't know if I was mentioning this with you or with Matthias, but there isn't a... we have a Terminus. Never mind. We're going to Terminus the Jinx. Put the Jinx on the bottom. I was going to say there's an intervening May in Detention Sphere, unlike Oblivion Ring.
Right.
So had he played the Oblivion Ring and Alex returned the Batterskull, Alex could have just let the enchantment hit the board.
Right, to no effect. He wouldn't have to get his own
He wouldn't
Jace.
have to remove his own top or Jace. Doesn't actually matter, though. Alex deciding to not return the Batterskull at end of turn.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if that was a misplay or he wanted to keep 3 mana up for something.
It's possible he wanted to not let Alex sneak a Vendilion Click or Snapcaster Mage into play there.
That's fair. The Vendilion especially would be brutal to bottom
return
the
Batterskull.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Binek, though, 1 Vendilion in the graveyard, another one on the bottom of the deck since shuffled away. Only 2 in the main deck. Though, of course, Gonzalez doesn't know that.
Right. Force of Will, Caracas, Tundra appears to be the top cards, with Detention Sphere, Swords to Plowshares, and Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce, yep.
So Jace is going to do its thing.
Binek up to 6 cards in hand before he puts 2 back, and it looks like there'll be the 2 lands here. And between the Force of Will and the Spell Pierce, Binek easily has enough counter magic to force the issue on that Batterskull, if necessary, mopping up with the Detention Sphere.
Alex still not returning the Batterskull. even though he had plenty of mana that time.
Yeah, I'm not sure I get it. I don't think he can play the waiting game against an active Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah. And seeing as this is pre-boarded, he doesn't have to worry about, I don't know, disenchant.
Nope, sure doesn't.
Which Alex Binek doesn't even have. So a lot of the decks would run one or something similar to a disenchant effect of some kind.
Exactly. Gonzalez has one, I believe.
Gonzalez does have one. He has one disenchant. He also has a Pithing Needle. Although that's not going to be nearly as relevant against Alex. As we mentioned, he can play any number of different types of game.
Right. He'll still definitely side it in, and probably if he has to blind name, he'll name Sensei's Top.
Yeah.
That's one of the most powerful cards in this matchup.
Yeah. Naming Batterskull's obviously not particularly productive with Pithing Needle, but even naming Stoneforge Mystic still not the best thing in the world.
Right, because you play them yourself. Same with Jace. So Alex Binek just fixing his hand, making sure that he gets into an unlosable board state. He has 7 cards in hand.
Yep.
Jace so quickly does his thing.
Among them is a Snapcaster Mage. I think Alex finally found a Planeswalker. Possibly. Elspeth Knight Errant.
There it is, and Binek's surely going to fight over this. I think I just tap 5 for Force of Will here.
Yeah, I would agree. No, he's going to let it happen.
Interesting. Both players seem pretty cautious, almost overly cautious here.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know what Alex Binek is afraid of.
Right, Gonzalez,
we'll have to see what he has to really figure out what's happened here.
Really, though, I mean, Gonzalez clearly has nothing. He's been letting Jace Brainstorm turn after turn.
Yeah.
So,
which is why it's very confusing that he would let this Elspeth resolve here.
Yeah, let's see what his plan is. I know he has a Snapcaster in hand.
Aha! I see.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense now. We've come full circle. All right.
He's found the 1 and Treat the Angels. That's what he needed.
So he's going to do it for 5, leaving up Spell Pierce mana. He's also got a Force of Will in hand.
Yeah, and Gonzalez doesn't look like he even has 1 counter, let alone 2.
Yeah.
So this game about to be over here. I don't think
Alex was. He also has the engineered explosives in hand. He was He was not expecting a Treat the Angels out of Alex's deck because he'd seen Stoneforge already.
Right, and that's part of the beauty of it. I mean, you have to think about it when there's a top in play, but I don't know. Has Binek played a Stoneforge yet?
I thought he's played 1, but I could be mistaken.
Not sure.
Well, if he hasn't, then you have to be expecting the Entreat the Angels, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't play it for 0.
Yeah, I guess to put back with Brainstorm, but you have to protect against it.
Alex Gonzalez is trying to swords one of the Angels to go down to 1 life on the attack.
If I'm Binek, I think I just let that happen.
That's fine.
Kill the Elspeth, deal Alex a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's a 2-turn clock either way.
Right. So no reason to let your Jace die, if it doesn't have to. Although alternatively, just bouncing the token with Jace is good too.
Yeah.
Alex Binek, many ways to win this game. And if I'm Gonzalez, I think I just scoop here. He still has to win 2 games in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And as game 1, it's going to take about 20 minutes. He doesn't have a ton of time. He would need to win fairly quickly.
No, you figure about 3 minutes for sideboarding, maybe 2 minutes for sideboarding the second time. It's not much time.
So there's the engineered explosives for 0, a little bit later than he would have liked.
Yep.
Alex is most likely going to fight over this with Force of Will.
I think he has to with his opponent at 1 life here.
Yeah, and that's the game. So Alex Binek takes game 1 against Alex Gonzalez with his blue-white miracles splashing red for Red Elemental Blast and Pyroblast out of the sideboard.
Yeah, and interestingly, that's it. He has 1 Volcanic Island as his only red source. Really, I feel like the red is more to power engineered explosives than the sideboard cards.
Yes. We've been seeing that that build with the 1 Volcanic Island fairly regularly since, I believe it was Kobe Spaeth won the Kansas City?
It was quite a while ago.
It was a while ago,
yeah.
But he was the first one that won a major tournament with that.
Right.
And ever since then, people were like, yeah, that's probably worth it, just because the man is so good that
there's no reason
real reason not to. Alex Gonzalez picking a different color with the 3 surgical extractions out of the sideboard to hedge his bets against Dredge, Reanimator, what have you.
Yep, and I believe there's a Reanimator deck in the, or at least playing for top 8. I think that's Jonathan Thatch,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken. Playing Hapless Researcher, actually.
Nice.
Which is a throwback. It's a throwback on a throwback, actually. Not even legal in Modern. If you're unfamiliar, blue for a 1/1, sack, draw card, discard a card.
Yep. As a big fan of looters in all of their forms, I'm a Hapless Researcher fan.
Very good.
So among other stories, we went down through a couple of the stories that we had for the rest of the tournament. Oh, Thatch is High Tide. I see. Jonathan Thatch is the High Tide player.
Okay.
And Joey Mispagel. He lost his last round, so he's actually on 12 points.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So he was playing in a feature match last round, and I thought he won.
Yeah. He's lower down. He's the only Reanimator deck in the field. Reanimator not really doing as good, just like Maverick has sort of fallen off the radar. Similar story. Interesting interaction though. Joey was up against the Rest in Peace combo deck that Caleb was playing. Caleb landed a Rest in Peace in game 1, and he hard cast a Gristlebrand.
Wow. That has to be every land in his deck, just about.
Yeah, it was awesome. He just tapped 8, played. It actually connected once before Caleb was able to find an answer. It was very funny. So another storyline I wanted to make mention of is Lauren Nolan, invitational champion from Indianapolis, and he is playing to top 32 or top 16. I forget which one it is. But he's currently sitting on 97 Open Series points.
So he needs those 3.
He needs those 3 to get to 100 to get the 2 buys.
Right, and 2 buys is pretty huge in the Star City Invitational.
Pretty enormous, yeah. So good luck to Lauren Nolan. He's one of the Cincinnati guys. I know him pretty well. Just so you guys know, Alex Binek is not playing back to basics in his sideboard. His basics are numerous, but they are not the only lands in his deck, and so he does not have access to back to basics. Although both of these players do have a ton of singletons that they have access to. Alex has 12 individual cards in his sideboard, or Alex Binek has 12 individual cards in his sideboard. Alex Gonzalez one-ups him with having 13. This is what you can do when you have Sensei's Dividing Top and Brainstorm and Jace in a deck.
Exactly.
And you can have any number of answers.
For a little added redundancy, Binek also has the Enlightened Tutor package that a lot of decks are actually adopting now. I feel like originally it was only Maverick that had it, and slowly it started creeping its way into more decks. People realized that you can save a ton of sideboard space by siding in 2 Enlightened Tutors and a bunch of one-offs.
Yeah, and the Enlightened Tutor package is not as good with back to basics because your opponent sees it coming.
Right.
And so they can play around. Oh, I see back to basics is coming. I can play around that. Whereas if you go and get the Ensnaring Bridge or the Rest in Peace, they can't exactly play around it.
They're usually just cold at that point.
Yeah.
Usually when you're Enlightened Tutoring for one of your silver bullets, it's because it's such a game-changing effect. Like, for example, in Binek's sideboard, Humility, Circle of Protection, Red, Ensnaring Bridge, Rest in Peace, like you said. Those are actually the only 4 targets in the sideboard.
Sure.
So kind of a minimal Enlightened Tutor package, but this effectively lets him have 4 of each piece of hate, which is huge.
Alex Gonzalez, I would imagine, is going to bring in... Well, they both have Jace Beleren in the sideboard. Look at that.
Yeah, kind of a card you don't see too often in Legacy. Once in a while, but the fact that both these players have it and both these players are playing for top 8 probably means something.
Yeah, it's a good way to combat big Jace.
Yeah.
Or medium Jace, I should say. But
any Jace, really.
Any Jace, really. Since it's only 3 mana, it's murder target Jace.
There you go.
And it's also just fine by itself. It's able to garner card advantage. It's an Ancestral Recall over the course of 3 turns. Very difficult to get off the board if it resolves.
A lot of the times it just goes into +2 mode for a while to fight off the Snapcasters and Vendilion clicks. It'll often go to 5, then 4, 3, 2, 1. So it looks like Binek is on 7, Gonzalez shuffling up. He'll be on 6 cards this match. Or this game, rather. Gonzalez will be on the play. He's definitely the aggro in this matchup, I'd say, as much as anyone can be.
Yeah, as much as, yeah, exactly. It's unfortunate he doesn't have access to something like Geist of St. Traft out of the sideboard.
Right.
Which Chi Hoi Yim won spectacularly in New Orleans last week, but he had a 1-of Geist of St. Traft, was able to dig into it early, and was able to put away Joe Bass quite quickly because he was expecting more of a control matchup, and Shihui decided no, this is going to be tempo on control, and that favors tempo.
This is going to be Geist of St. Traft, the deck.
Yeah.
Geist of St. Traft, just a beast in every format. So brutal in any control mirror.
Yeah, if you had told a person, I don't know, 5 years ago, let alone 10, we're going to print a blue and white creature. It's essentially a 6/2 that has something called hexproof.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know this yet.
It's
better than Shroud. Yeah. Like, Shroud's good and all. You remember, so in like a year from now when you remember a year ago when Troll said it got printed? We're going to put that on a blue and white creature.
Yeah. It's not going to be fun.
No.
So Alex Gonzalez on 5 cards.
Oof.
Binek leading off with a Sensei's Top in response to Alex's Delta.
I'm going to go ahead and say that that favors Alex Binek so far.
Yeah.
The mulling to 5 on the play against the top on the draw.
Yeah, that's going to be really tough for Alex Gonzalez. He has to land a Stoneforge here to have any reasonable shot, and I think he knows it. That's why he's end of turn brainstorming.
That's why he's digging here.
Usually I don't like end of turn brainstorm, but sometimes you have to do it.
Does not look like he found it.
Nope. Oh, he might not have even found a land.
Oh, he does. He has the Stoneforge in hand. He was looking for the land.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoops. We're done.
Yep. This is going to be really tough for Alex Gonzalez. Alex Binek also would have to brick on land here.
How'd we do?
I don't know. He's thinking about it.
There it is.
And Gonzalez draws his card face down, says go. He doesn't have to discard yet because of that mull to 5. It's the little things.
Yep. And there's the counterbalance top. Things are not going wonderfully. Yep, Spell Pierce. Okay. So Alex is going to choose to fight over this with the Force of Will.
And in general, the counterbalance top versus a mana screwed opponent, usually pretty good. Say most of the time, wins every time.
Yeah. Alex Gonzalez's deck is not as varied on casting costs as one might expect because he does not have any miracles.
Right. 2 Vendalion Click will be his answer. That'll be the card that he has to slip through somehow. That'll be tough, though. Binek has a Force of Will in reserve.
He probably also brought in the Detention Sphere that did Alex Gonzalez, which might be another way to answer it. But Alex Binek does have 3s in his deck.
He does.
So.
Post board, Alex Binek will have 2 Vendalion Click, a Detention Sphere, 2 Jace Beleren. And so only 4, but...
Well, in addition to the Entreat the Angels that's main deck.
Right. The one Entreat too. So 5. So it's an uphill battle for Alex Gonzalez. He's going to need some help.
It's one of my favorite planes. Mercadian Masks, looking at Mercadia from far away.
It's a good planes.
I like that one. There's a Stoneforge Mystic. Do you think Alex cares, or I guess he's
about
just
the
gonna,
planes?
No, about the Stoneforge Mystic. I guess he's gonna top and see if he can just counter it for free, which is fine. But let's assume he doesn't find a 2 on top.
I think he does counter it, just because the end of turn Batterskull kind of poses a problem that he can't answer right now, and there can't be many Terminuses or well, not too many in his deck close sideboard. He doesn't have the Disenchant like we talked about.
So Alex is gonna go looking for something else, shuffle things away, gonna go get the Volcanic Island.
Yep, pretty likely to hit a 2-drop there. Here are a lot of them in his deck. Staffcasters, Stoneforges, Counterspells, Counterbalances. There's many 2s. He's probably about
He can also realistically just find a Force of Will and draw it.
That works too.
Not ideal, but it's an option. Hey!
Oh, the
look
blind
at
top.
That. Wow.
So Gonzalez.
That is quite wild.
Yeah, what's up with the no top before
I am not
that?
sure. Just had it. Just knew I had it.
Still was just feeling it that time.
That was odd.
We're gonna have to ask him about that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask him about that one. That was. He's just feeling it.
Use the
I
false
guess.
Binek.
Yeah, exactly.
Sir, your Sensei's Divining Top is off.
That was quite impressive.
So Binek main phase, fetching up the Tundra here. We'll see what he has. Looks like a Jace. Smells like a Jace.
Is a Jace. He's also got Pyroblast backup in hand. So we are good to go.
Yeah, this game getting ugly for Alex Gonzalez. I'd say the only thing he has going for him is that nice planes.
Yep.
So 2 back. And he'll pass. He'll leave a 2-drop on top just in case there are any more Stoneforge Mystics waiting in the wings. But Gonzalez can't even find a third land. Oh, no, there it is. Riptide Lab, not the land he wanted.
Yep. Not going to be able to cast any double blue spell he may have, be it Jace, or Counterspell.
No, definitely
Disenchant.
Not. All right, that's the same Stoneforge Mystic,
Yep.
I think.
Right away.
Stoneforge
Put back
Mystic.
with the Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Stoneforge Mystic doing a lot of work in this matchup.
Not even having to be in play.
Nope.
I think at this point you start. Well, I guess not. I was going to start ticking up, but
Yeah, pretty reasonable. I think Alex Binek could roll a die to decide which Jace ability to use, and he'd probably still win this one.
the other way Alex can go here is to just brainstorm for the rest of the game and put a Stoneforge Mystic into play.
Yep. That'll do it too. Get the Batter Skull, slowly chip away. 5 attacks later, Gonzalez would be dead.
Alex is just going to maintain his advantage, though, probably leaving that Stoneforge Mystic on top. Alex Gonzalez not going to cast the Stoneforge Mystic that he found.
Fool me once, shame on you.
That's right. So now we're going to get Stoneforge Mystic to likely to just shuffle for Jace,
Right.
in addition to being a win condition.
Exactly. The incidental win condition.
Right.
Kind of the story of this deck here from Alex Binek, the incidental win condition. Same with Caleb Durwards. These blue-white Miracle decks really just, they need any way to win. It doesn't matter how they do it. Though the Rest in Peace Helm of Obedience combo certainly is flashier.
Yes. And as Matthias and I were talking about last round, Energy Field and Rest in Peace both just have, like, by themselves are fine in certain matchups.
Exactly. It's a lot like Elephant Grats in the Enchantress deck.
Yeah.
You just play it, and it buys you a few turns. Sometimes that's all you need when you're playing Miracle cards.
Yep.
So Gonzalez, you know, I have to give props to Gonzalez for fighting this one out. I think a lot of players would have scooped here.
Yeah. Hoping to be able to find something.
Yeah, some sort of 3-drop.
So he's going to try a 2-drop anyway. Now that the Stoneforge Mystic is in play, oh, we had a counterbalance. So that'll be the game.
Alex Gonzalez, just tired of having his spells countered, decides to pack it in. I don't blame him.
Yeah,
I would have packed it in too.
Yep.
Just a brutal series of events for him. He gets out-topped, out-jaced game 1 and mulls to 5 game 2. To be fair, I don't think the matchup was great for him.
That's also fair. I think that Alex is better set up for this style of match. Also, Alex he's a national team competitor. He's won major tournaments before. He's a very solid player. He's not going to make many mistakes. And when you have a deck full of ways to fix your mana and fix your hand,
Right.
it's going to be tough to beat him regardless, let alone when you're sharing about 65 of 75 cards.
Yeah, and not the good 10 either.
Right.
The 10 that are geared towards creatures and
Yes.
geared towards other matchups.
Yes.